I wanted to make a quick video about a few items that I think every 3D printing setup needs. Um, I I don't even think these would be considered optional things. I think these should be considered mandatory things for a 3D print setup. So, without any further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, so item number one that I think every 3D printing setup needs is a good hot melt glue gun. And not just an ordinary one. I mean, I guess technically speaking it is an ordinary one, but this is a dual temperature gun. So it's got the high and the low, which is excellent for different materials. So setting number one, if I'm not mistaken, is about 20 watts. And then setting number two, like high, is 80 watts, which is ridiculous. Because it'll literally melt a hole right through your PLA or even PETG for that matter. It's absolutely crazy. But yeah, you definitely need to get yourself a good glue gun because I've fought with, I don't want to say off-brand because I did have a good branded gun, but it just didn't last long. It lasted like 3 months. This gun, I've been lugging this around. It's in really good shape because we take good care of it. But this is about a year old, and this is what they classify a commercial type. Like, they use these in like warehouses for closing boxes and stuff like that. So it's a great, I guess I can't say that word. It's a great tool. Let's go with that. It's a great tool to add to your 3D print setup. Highly recommend it. And I'm partial to the Black & Decker and Stanley brand because, well, I worked for a company that sold their stuff and I became quite familiar with it. So let's get into number two. Okay, so item number two here, what we have is, come on. We have a knife set. I'm not sure what the proper term for these types of knives are, but as you can see, it's got several different blade styles, different types of handles. This is my favorite because I use this guy for doing some scraping, and it's incredible. It's got every blade style that you could possibly ever need for post-processing your 3D prints. Believe it or not, I went to a hobby store, or actually it was a woodworking store, to get one of these, and they wanted something ridiculous. It was like $57, I think, for this, which is absolutely crazy to me. I got this from the dollar store. It was $2.50. It fully stocked the way you see it. I added nothing to it. The only thing I did was I did go to a hobby store and picked up some quality blades. I'm not going to tell you the quality or the brand of these because it might be region specific and you probably can't get those, but any hobby store sells, you know, good blades. So yeah, highly recommend getting yourself a good knife set. I've always used a blade like that for my vinyl cutting, and I just liked it and I wanted to add more. So yeah, definitely get yourself a good set of knives because it makes a big difference. All right, okay, so item number four that I think every 3D print setup needs, or something close to this, doesn't have to be exactly like this. Some people may be against using what I'm going to show you and they may choose to use the other alternative. That's up to them, but what I'm talking about is a torch. This guy is great for post-processing. I mean, as you can imagine, it's bloody well hot. And there's no wires involved. Some people choose to use a heat gun for cleaning up stringing. I choose a torch because I literally click a button and it blasts it off in 3 seconds. Not even 3 seconds, it's like 1 second. But yeah, that's definitely kind of a need, not really a must-have, because like I said, there is alternatives. You can use a heat gun. I'm sure there's other ways too, but that's the easiest thing for me. I find that to be the most efficient. I love it. And now on to item number 5, which I'm not sure if you guessed it by now. Maybe you did. And it's really not an option. You kind of do need one. There is variations of that, but let me show you. You need a good shelf. So, as you probably remember, my last setup, I had 2 tables. And they weren't even tables, they were little desk things. And they worked great, but they were wobbly. And they took up a lot of room. This is far more efficient than what my last setup was. So I've got, you know, a 4-tier shelf, and this is a very good shelf. Each shelf can handle, I believe it's 750 pounds per shelf on this particular one. That's more weight than I dream of putting on this. Obviously, there is some shelves that can handle more, some that can handle less. So do your research and make sure you're buying one that suits what you need. Don't just take my word that, you know, mine can handle 700 and you go out and buy one that turns out it can only hold 7 pounds and everything comes crashing down. So do your research on what you're buying. Make sure it's going to suit your needs. Make sure it's going to fit your space. Do your own due diligence when it comes to that. But yeah, a good shelf definitely makes a difference, because I am so happy with the way this is set up now, having all 4 printers just in the one corner of this room here. I literally have, I'm pointing that way behind me, I have all this room here that I can add. I could probably add 4 more printers behind me if I really wanted to. So, I mean, we got a good, I don't know, does it really show there? Exactly the same amount of room that that shelf takes up available on that wall. So, the potential is there to add more, but as I stated a little while ago, we're not going to be staying in this place long anyway, so it doesn't matter. If you're wondering, why the heck is there a giant picture of you on your wall? Well, that's something my wife painted that of me when she was in college. So yeah, she's an amazing artist. But yeah, that is 6 feet by 6 feet. So yeah, that'll give you nightmares. It's pretty funny. Yeah, but I don't know. I just thought these were some items that you should have in your print setup, in your print farm, your print garden, your print studio, whatever you want to call it. These are items I use daily, multiple times daily, for every single print that I do. Now, on to arguably, probably the most important thing that a 3D printer setup needs, without a doubt, should not be optional, should be mandatory, is this guy. So, that's a CyberPower 1350 or 1500. Now, 1500 VA is the model number of this guy. So I believe it's 900 watts of output, but it's got a decent amount of runtime. So I have all my Bambu printers plugged into that one. And it's not just for the battery backup. I primarily use it for surge protection, because as you know, we moved into a new place, which happens to be an apartment building, and they're kind of notorious for dirty power, and that will counteract that. It's great. So, and it'll run, if I needed it to run all 3 printers, it'll actually run them for about 2 hours on, like, when they're printing, just on battery alone, which is great because we had a power outage and it was only out for about 5 minutes. But what I find is when these things resume after a power outage, there's almost always a layer shift on both the minis and the P1S. They seem to glitch out, I guess, so to speak. I'm not really sure what causes that. But if you can pause the print before the power comes back on, it should hopefully avoid having that layer shift. And I wanted to put that to the test to see if it actually was something that is notably happening, and I did exactly that, and I did come to the conclusion that for whatever reason, when it does the auto resume or power resume, it causes a print defect. So getting the battery back up, it'll stop that, because now if the power goes out, the printers can continue to run. If it's got a short time to go before the print is finished, no problem, I can let it finish. Or I can just pause all the printers and let them sit idle with the heat beds warm. That way we can extend the runtime. Let's do a little test. So we're actually printing right now, and I'm just going to go ahead and unplug this thing, and we'll look at it and we'll see what kind of runtime we'll get on this guy right now. Okay, so let's do this. So here's our main plug going into our battery backup. Let's go ahead and unplug that. We should hear a beep after it comes out. But oh, I kind of want to film the actual printer, because then you'll see that there's no interruption whatsoever. So how can I do this? I'm going to just sit you here. It's not an ideal angle, but you can watch the printer and you'll hear the beep. So here we go. In 3, 2, 1, unplug. So we're completely unplugged right now. There's 0 connections to the wall. So we just heard that. It did its beep. So we're actually printing some silk right now. So I've got the temperature a little hotter than normal. But that being said, it'll still run for 2 hours on that. So highly recommend that. And then when the power does come back on, it doesn't affect it. I'll go ahead and I'll plug it back in here. So let me set you back up here. So here we go. In 3, 2, 1, plugged in. Literally just seamless, flawless transition between battery and house power. We are plugged back into power. It will, where are we? It'll do its thing. Tells you your input, your output. It's great. It's one of the best things I've added to my print setups because it's alleviated a lot of stress for me, because there is nothing worse when you're deep into a print and it starts getting stormy outside. And we live in Canada. Like, we're kind of in the mountains, so to speak. So we do get a lot of storms, and they come out of nowhere, especially in fall and winter. So it's not uncommon for us to lose our power. I think since we've been in this building, I think we've lost power 3 times, I think. The first time it was out for a full day, which battery backup's not going to do anything on that, except for, you have to really make a decision if you're printing something, which print do you really want to save? Because obviously if all 3 of them are running, so that's going to substantially affect the amount of time that the battery can sustain running on just battery. So, if we've got something on here that's only taken 3 hours to print and it's 100 grams, but we've got something on here that's taken 37 hours and it's taken 200 grams, I'd much rather lose the short print than the long print. So what I would end up doing is just canceling that print, allowing this guy to sit paused, which I can't remember exactly. I actually want to say that I think it was up to 100 minutes of idle time with just the bed in a decently warm room. It makes a difference. If it's sitting by, yes, I'm by a window, but there's a heater right on the floor, so it stays decently warm in here. Obviously that's going to change if the power goes out, because now there's no heat, but the way these are kind of in this little nook here, it stays decently warm, which in turn helps the chamber and the heat bed on the A1 minis stay warm, so there's not that big fluctuation of temperature. So yeah, I just want to throw that out there. Those are things that I really think every 3D printer setup needs. Your opinions may vary, but let me know in the comments what you think some necessities are for 3D printing. In the meantime, I'm gonna get back to printing this. So if you like this sort of content, please like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.